Oh, this is gonna be good. I got 3 epic dragon stories from mythology, all different countries. I'm excited for this one. Let's get into it. Yamata no Orochi vs. Susanoo. When Susanoo, the Japanese Shinto god of the sea and storms, was banished from the high plane of heaven for destructive and unruly behavior, he found himself in a place called Torikami, where he came across a river. Just floating at the top of the river, he saw a chopstick, just like floating along down with the current. So he thought, there must be people nearby, living nearby. So he started walking upstream because Susanoo was lonely, you know? He just got banished from the high plane of heaven. He wanted to, I don't know, talk to some people, I guess. So he started walking upstream and eventually he did find some people. He found 3 people, in fact. An elderly couple and a young woman. Interestingly enough though, they were all clutching each other, crying, absolutely bawling their eyes out. Susanoo walks up to them and is like, what's going on? Why are you crying? And the old man, who introduced himself as Ashinazuchi, explained the situation. He said that he himself was the child of a mountain god, and he was here with the old woman who was his wife, Tenazuchi, and his young daughter, who was called Kushinada Hime. The issue was that Kushinada Hime was their youngest daughter out of 8, but the other 7 had all been devoured. Susanoo was like, I was not expecting that, please explain. So Ashinazuchi did. He explained that they had 8 daughters originally, but a massive monstrous dragon had come the first time 8 years ago and had devoured their oldest daughter. And then the next year he came again and ate the second oldest, and then the next year the third oldest, and the next year the 4th oldest, all the way now until all 7 other daughters had been eaten by this dragon, and Kushinada Hime was the only one left. Yet every year the dragon came at the same time on the same day, and that time was fast approaching. So that's why they were crying, because Kushinada Hime did not have long left to live in this world. Susanoo asked what this dragon looked like, and Ashinazuchi said that it was a massive creature with 8 heads and 8 tails. Its eyes were like red cherries, and its body spanned 8 valleys and 8 peaks. This beast was monstrous, and just to top it all off, if you looked at its belly, you would see that it was oozing blood. Ugh. Susanoo said, what is the name of this creature? And Ashinazuchi said, it's called Yamata no Orochi. Susanoo thought for a moment, and then he decided to reveal himself as the god of the sea and storms, the brother to the goddess Amaterasu, and he promised that he would protect Kushinada Hime from this dragon on one condition, that he could take her hand in marriage. Ashinazuchi agreed. He was happy to have his youngest daughter just survive, and he also thought that having a match for his daughter who was, you know, a powerful god wouldn't be so bad. So he agreed. They all agreed, and Susanoo got to work. He turned Kushinada Hime into a comb and put it in his hair to keep her safe. And then he instructed Ashinazuchi and Tenazuchi to brew sake. But not just any sake. Sake that had to be refined 8 times to make it extremely strong and pure. The couple did what they were told, brewing the sake as quickly as they could, but making sure that it was done correctly. And then Susanoo told them to build up 8 gates and to put a vase of the sake in front of each gate, which they did. And then when it was all done, they just waited. It didn't take long for the 8-headed giant dragon Yamata no Orochi to come, and he was hungry. He was looking for food. But when he saw the 8 gates with the 8 vases of sake, he couldn't resist. He dipped each head in one of the vases and started lapping them up, drank every last drop. And then he got drunk and fell asleep, just like what was Susanoo's plan. Susanoo then drew his massive sword and started chopping up Yamata no Orochi into bits and pieces until the river ran red with its blood. Interestingly enough, when his sword hit the middle tail, it snapped into two. He went to look inside the tail and found another divine powerful sword, which would later become one of the 3 sacred treasures of Japan. And just like that, Yamato no Orochi was defeated. Susanoo gained a sword, he gained a wife, and he slayed a dragon. That was good, huh? But let's move on now to story 2. Greece. Python versus Apollo. Zeus, king of the ancient Greeks. Everyone knows that he was a lustful god, sleeping around with anyone he could get his hands on. And this story is no different. This time, the person who had his interest was Leto, the goddess of motherhood and childbirth. When Zeus and Leto slept with each other, to no surprise, Leto got pregnant with twins. You would think that would be cause for celebration, except for the fact that Hera, queen of the gods and wife to Zeus, was obviously not very happy. She got racked with jealousy and anger, so she told everyone in the land to not let Leto stay with them to give birth, and then she sent the massive monstrous dragon Python after Leto to kill her and make sure she could not give birth to these twins. Leto went on the run. She needed to find a safe place to give birth. Python was on her heels, but wherever she went, everyone was scared of Hera, and Hera said not to accept Leto into their communities. So everywhere Leto went, they said no. And she traveled to different places, different states, different countries, different cities, different villages, and they all said no. And closer Python got to finding her, and closer she got to giving birth, until she eventually found the island of Delos. Delos accepted her in after they made the deal where Leto said that her children would protect them from the wrath of Hera. She gave birth to twins, a girl who she named Artemis and became goddess of the hunt, and a boy who she named Apollo, who became goddess of the sun. Within 4 days, Apollo declared himself the god who would interpret the will of Zeus to humankind, and he started walking across the island of Delos, filling the island up with gold. Must be nice, huh? Despite Hera's wrath and anger at the fact that Leto had given birth to these 2 twins and Zeus was the father, most of the gods and goddesses actually supported Leto and supported the twins, including Hephaestus, the god of fire and metal and the legendary blacksmith. And he gifted Apollo a bow and arrows. Then, without hesitation, for revenge for the trouble his mother had been given, Apollo went searching for the dragon Python. It didn't take him long, and Python became the hunted instead of the hunter. Apollo chased Python as Python tried to fly away, all the way to the feet of the Oracle of Gaia in Delphi, which was a sacred place. And it was there that Python tried to do his last stand, but Apollo shot 1 arrow from the bow that Hephaestus had given him, and that 1 arrow pierced Python's heart and killed him immediately. Apollo didn't stop there though. He then decided that he needed a place of worship, and he said that the Oracle of Gaia was now the Oracle of Apollo, and Delphi was a place for him to be worshipped. That would later cause him some problems, but at the time, Apollo felt on top of the world. He just slayed the dragon, and he'd found his place of worship. Now we're going all the way from Greece to Wales, and we're gonna talk about the red dragon versus the white dragon. In the 5th century, warlord King Vortigern had made a mistake. He had been battling against the Pikes and the Scots, so he asked the Saxons to help him. But they betrayed him and ended up killing his son. So Vortigern, to escape the Saxons, ran off to take refuge in Wales. His plan was simple. He would find a big hill where he could see all around if anyone was approaching him, and he would build a massive tower that was very defensible. Eventually he found the hill and he ordered his people to start building the tower, and that's when he started to come into some problems. Every day they would start building the walls of the tower, and every night the walls would crumble down. This repeated day after day after day, and no one could figure out what was going on. Vortigern eventually gathered all the wise men he could and set them to debate. He needed to know what was happening. Why could this tower not be built? And eventually the wise men, after weeks of deliberation, said to Vortigern that the hill was cursed. But there was a way to get rid of the curse. They had to find a boy who was born without a father, and then they had to sacrifice him and sprinkle his blood all over the hill. Vortigern believed them, so he sent his soldiers out looking for such a boy, and eventually they did find him, a young boy named Merlin. Yes, that Merlin. The soldiers brought Merlin back to King Vortigern, and when Vortigern explained to Merlin what was going to happen, I can imagine the conversation being like, I have nothing against you, little kid, but you know, I'm gonna cut you up and spread your blood over this hill so I can build a tower. What an interesting conversation. But when Vortigern told Merlin what was going to happen, Merlin just laughed and he said, "Your wise men are fools." Vortigern was like, "What?" Merlin said, "This hill is not cursed. There are just two dragons fighting beneath the ground. That is why your tower cannot be built." Vortigern was like, "What are you talking about?" And Merlin said, "Dig the hill up and you will see." So Vortigern decided to do what the little boy said, and he ordered his men to dig up the hill, and sure enough, it revealed two dragons locked in battle, a red dragon and a white dragon. They clawed at each other, they bit each other, they scratched, and then once the hill had been dug up slightly, they burst out the ground and were locked in a ball of fire and anger as they flew into the air, locked together fighting. Everyone was amazed, and Merlin was standing next to Vortigern, and he said, "The red dragon represents us, the Britons. The white dragon represents them, the Saxons." And Vortigern watched, and he saw that the white dragon was bigger, and it had longer claws and sharper teeth, and its fire was hotter, and it was winning the fight. And Vortigern said, "But then will the Saxons beat us?" And Merlin said, "Just watch." And the battle raged on in the air, where everyone was looking up, and the white dragon was battering the red dragon, but the red dragon did not give up, and it fought and fought until it locked its jaws onto the white dragon's neck, breathed fire directly into the wound, scratched it just bad enough that the white dragon couldn't take anymore. It flew limply away, escaping off into the distance. And the red dragon, injured but having won the fight, settled back in the hill. And Merlin said to Vortigern, "The Saxons may outnumber us, they may have better weapons, they may be stronger, but we, the Britons, are going to win in the end because this is our land. Now you may build your tower." And Vortigern had the hill filled up again, and then he built his tower successfully on top. And from that day onwards, the red dragon became the symbol of Welsh victory and resilience. I'm British. I'm not Welsh, I'm English, but I do love that last one. It's probably my favorite of the three, but that's why I left it till the end. But I do love all of those stories. Tell me in the comments which one you liked the most. If you like dragons, I do have a video about how to survive a dragon attack, which is pretty cool. Just click on the video right here and you can watch it. Andrew out.